Hi, you're listening to Dusk to Dawn, reading horror and weird fiction. We're your hosts, Amber and Dan.
Find any trigger warnings in our episode notes. We're happy you're joining us and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the podcast. Unfortunately, I have some very bad news for y'all. It is no longer October. We are past Halloween. We're shutting everything down. We're going to go to sleep, and we'll see you next October.
I know, right? I wish we could just... Well, then it would get boring, though, you know?
If life was one long October.
Yeah, I do wish, though, that the changing of the season and the leaves falling, or not even falling, but like the leaves changing on the trees lasted a little bit longer than like half a month.
If we were brilliant scientists, perhaps we could resurrect October from the dead.
No.
You really hate this book.
I mean...
We got a good one for y'all. So, today, what are we talking about?
Today we are talking about Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, if we're going to give it its full title.
Yes, and you read the 1818 text.
Yeah, there's an 1818 text, which was the original text that she wrote, but then she kept tinkering with it and changing some things. Apparently there was like another edition in 1823, and then in 1831 there was the edition that was the main edition people are reading, but supposedly recently, I don't know if that's within the last 5 years or 20 years, I'm not sure, but people have gotten more interested in the 1818 text version again, which is the version that I read. I don't think there's anything majorly different in it. She had an introduction to the 1831 version where she talks about how it's mostly stylistic changes. Some of the conversations are changed a little bit, but there aren't any major like plot differences. And in our show notes, what I'll do is I found a pretty cool website where this guy breaks down everything that's different. He even has like the updated introduction by Mary Shelley talking about Frankenstein and like how it has affected her life over the years in the 1831 version. And then he goes through and is actually like, if you're really into this or really interested, it's fun to at least browse, but you can see like on page 7, this character says this in the 1831 version compared to this in the 1818 version. So you can like go through and see all the
edits.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That'd be fun as an editor to do that.
Yeah. You'd probably like to do that if you liked the book. So...
Well, I would be curious how her mind was working as an author. But I actually don't know which version I read this time. I just got it on Libby from the library, and it doesn't actually say, which is funny.
Well, maybe during our conversation, you'll be like, that never happened, and then we'll know where the differences are.
I mean, seeing as how I've read this book like 4 times, I've also read that last time I read it, I read the 1818 text, so...
I think we said this in the last podcast, but for anyone joining us for this one, Amber has read this book now 5 times. I actually read...
It's 4 or 5. I don't know exactly, but more than...
3.
More than 3?
Yeah. It was fun. I actually read her copy with her notes and highlights and stuff. So it's interesting to see like how another person is interacting with the book as you're reading it, which would devastate you, but...
Well, I specifically bought that book for my Gothic literature course. So I bought it with the intent of writing in it, not loaning it to friends to borrow and read. That's what the other copy we have is for.
And this was my first time reading it. So this is going to be cool. Another reason that we picked this book is because... we were both excited for the Frankenstein movie that recently came out by Guillermo del Toro, which we watched last night. And we'll focus mostly on the book, but we'll talk a little bit about what we think of the movie, our initial impressions of that.
Yeah, and like the comparison between the two, because there are definitely some differences.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess with that being said, spoiler alert
Yeah.
for this episode. If you haven't read Frankenstein and don't know the story, which is probably pretty rare these days.
I would say, I mean, the book and this movie is quite different from the Universal Frankenstein. If that's the one you're thinking of, the book is much different. I mean, the Frankenstein, the monster never talks in the Universal one, right? He just goes...
I think so. It's been actually a while since I watched that. That would have been good to watch, but here we are.
We saw it last year.
Did we?
Yeah.
Huh.
It was good.
Okay.
It was the first Universal... No, maybe not the first one, but it was an early one.
Boris Karloff.
All right, let's go into a little author summary for you all who only really know Mary Shelley based on her fame of this book. Let's get a little more into it. The idea of Frankenstein came to Mary Godwin during a summer sojourn in 1816 with Percy Shelley on the shores of Lake Geneva, where the notorious romantic poet Lord Byron was also staying. The summer that year was unusually cold and rainy due to a volcano which had erupted in Indonesia the year before, spewing ash and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, creating the conditions for the year without summer, and thus for Frankenstein. Thanks, Indonesia.
Yeah, I like how the Earth just made the perfect gothic vibe to kickstart science fiction and like a pretty hefty book in like the gothic literature.
Yep.
You know, like it's good timing there, Volcano. Good job.
That was new for me. I didn't know that. So during their stay, Lord Byron famously suggested that the group of friends engage in a ghost story competition inspired by the German ghost stories they had been reading lately. The challenge was the catalyst that inspired Mary to write Frankenstein. And I should mention at this point, she's Mary Godwin. She's not yet Mary Shelley, although she is there with Percy Shelley, who she ends up marrying.
It wasn't he having an affair? No, he was having an affair with the other woman, or Byron was having an affair.
Percy Shelley was married.
Okay, that's what it was.
But
yeah,
he and Mary had a thing going. And then we'll talk about what happened with Percy's wife later. Some of Mary Shelley's other works include The Last Man, a dystopian story set in the 21st century, as well as The Fortunes of Perkin Warbeck, Lodore, and Faulkner. I hadn't heard of any of those because Frankenstein is of such great fame. Although living in the 21st century, it would be interesting to read The Last Man, which I think takes place in like 2076 or something like that. Both of her parents were radical writers of the day, although Mary was most influenced by her mother, who died 10 years after giving birth to her, and who had written A Vindication of the Rights of Women, a seminal work on the need for gender equality, and in specific, the importance of women receiving a vigorous education at a time when men expected them to be pretty, ornamental things who would only spoil through the rigors of study. Mary often read her mother's work and through it gained the confidence to continue her own writing and education.
Yeah, I think her mom is the one who has a statue in Trinity College.
Oh, we did, and we saw that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Her mom was actually really famous for being a advocate of women's rights, which is really cool.
Yeah, it was crazy because this is late 19th century England. They do this story in Geneva, but still very much like
That's
English
Switzerland.
culture. Yes, I know, but she's from.
Well, you said England and then you said a city.
Yeah, I did. I don't know. It's like English culture. I forgot she lived in England. There's some trips back and forth between England and Switzerland. I think
she was a bit of a nomad, I believe. Yeah. I don't remember too many specifics about her life outside of this venture. And didn't they leave her behind too? At this place in Geneva.
I'm not sure.
I think they ditched her for a while. Yeah.
Right. Well, I know that Lord Byron and Percy, they started the ghost writing competition, and then they went out on a boat. And they're like, we're going to go ride on our boat. And Mary's like, no, I'm in a competition. I must win. And she did. She definitely did. So one of the interesting things about her mom is she was a important feminist writer of the day, and for that was called a whore and a tramp and a waste of time and all these things. And then after her mom died, her dad, who was also a writer, wrote a book about the mom, like a memoir about her. I guess it would be a biography then if it's about someone else, where he talked about her mom's illicit sexual affairs as part of it. And in his point of view, he was trying to write the story of a complete person, and that was part of her story, and he wasn't trying to drag her name through the mud. But then once the public got a hold of it, they're like, oh, this feminist writer is just a slut. And it ended up having bad repercussions for her reputation.
I just realized too, you actually said her name wrong, because it's not Mary Godwin, it's Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin. She kept her mother's name was Wollstonecraft, and that's Mary Wollstonecraft, who is famous.
Got it.
So yes, her last name was Godwin, but it was part, it's she had the 3-name thing going.
Yeah. Just a couple of thoughts I had known about the ghostwriting competition. I think most people have that idea of like it happened on a gloomy, rainy night and they all decided to write together.
Isn't that the start of a really bad book?
Probably several.
Dark and stormy night.
That's literally how the time travel. Not time travel. Wrinkle in Time literally starts with like it was a dark and stormy night, and you're like, that's an example of bad writing.
Yeah, that's I think the point.
Anyway, but I hadn't realized Mary's parents both being writers and like how much she was involved with her own education. I also didn't realize how long this book was. I guess the details were fuzzy because I wasn't really thinking about it. And then I read this, 270-page book, whatever it is. It was like, she didn't write that in one night, did she? And no, she did not. And then also Lord Byron, I know of him because our man James Joyce loves him so much. And so I was like, oh, it wasn't just like some rando friends. It was, one of the most famous English poets of the day that was involved with this. So these are like heavy hitters going in to do a competition, not just some friends. And she like accidentally writes an incredibly famous work. Like she was primed for this.
Didn't mean to write one of the great American novels, even though she's British, but you know what I mean.
You want to read my summary because you haven't seen it and I think you might like it.
Sure. Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, is the story of an asshole scientist who channels all of his brilliant energy into bringing the dead back to life, which he abhors the moment the experiment succeeds. People suffer and die, and Victor feels little to no remorse over the whole thing. Wow, did you pull this from my heavily digressing notes into just bitching? Meanwhile, the creature just wants to do people's chores in exchange for not being hated on sight. When Frankenstein was published in January 1818, the book didn't earn any royalties. Sales were very weak at first. It was the stage version of the book that made the story famous. In 19th century England, playwrights were allowed to borrow freely from novels without crediting the original author.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, I love your summary. That was very good. That was very spot on.
You really bottled up your feelings there.
It's funny because I was flipping through my notes this morning in the book that you read just to remind since I didn't read that version this time, just to remind myself some of my thoughts from my previous reading. And at first it's like, oh, look, here she's talking about the sublime and here mentioning these different literary things. And by the end, I'm like, this fucking guy. It's in the margin everywhere. It's just fuck this guy. He's a jerk.
Yeah, we'll get into that shortly. One little thing I wanted to mention, I think the first time, or I don't know, one of these times when Mary Shelley went to see the stage play of Frankenstein, I don't remember if it was the first play she went to see, but she was very pleased to see that in the, what's the little booklet they give you? The
playbill?
Yeah, the playbill. They had the cast of characters, and for the creature, it was just a dash, and then it said the actor's name.
Nice, yeah.
And she specifically avoided ever writing the word monster within the book because she wanted to leave it open to interpretation for the reader, with the idea that usually readers who were not sympathetic with the creature tended to say monster, whereas supposedly readers who were more sympathetic with the creature called it a creature. So
yeah,
some fun stuff going there.
In my course, we had a full discussion about what we should call it or him. We even had a discussion of what pronouns to use. I think we settled on the wretch because he calls himself that at one point in the book. And we settled on he, him pronouns since he wanted a companion. And I think he calls himself he. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but
he does specifically ask for a female companion in the book.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, I'm true.
I mean,
sure. But it's also 19th century Victorian times, so I don't know how often.
There's a lot of coded gay books out there in that time. I mean, Horace Walpole. Just look him up, and you'll be like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I will, if I remember.
So anyway, I will be calling him the wretch.
The wretch. Okay.
That's
I'll probably say creature.
My preference.
Because that's usually what I say.
Because he self-identifies as the wretch. Okay, so when I say Frankenstein, I mean Victor. Dr. Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah, let's try to say
the monster.
Victor.
Or the creature. Oh, call him Victor? Okay.
Maybe, yeah, we'll try to just say
Victor.
Victor because of Frankenstein being used by so many people for the monster, creature, wretch, whatever you want to call it. I should say, too, that supposedly when this book came out, this is based on the introduction of the 1818 version that I read, it was pretty scandalous, like just the idea of playing God and bringing parts of different dead people back to life. Just that, I mean, it's pretty humdrum for us today, but back then it was shocking. And then when it started to become apparent that the book was written by a woman, interestingly, a lot of the reviews that were negative were reviews where it was discovered or whatever, somehow the rumor had gotten through that it was written by a woman. So the idea being like likely that biased them against her even more, because first they have a shocking story and then they have a shocking story by a woman. And like, what is a woman doing reading and writing? Like what, and like writing well, what is this crap? And then like bringing the dead back and all that. So it was quite scandalous at the time.
Now that you mention that, I actually do remember that being the case. I'm talking about that because I think this is around the same time as Jane Austen was writing too. And I'm trying to remember if she was anonymous or used a pen name for a while for that very reason. But yeah, women were not supposed to be writing at this time.
I forgot to mention that when the book was first published, it was published anonymously. People discovered that she wrote it later on. And it was supposedly when they found out it was written by a woman, they're like, oh, she must be this like scandalous woman. She was apparently very demure and very slight and feminine in person. So they're like, how can this feminine woman write this horrifying book? Which is a weird thing to think, but
social standards were very strict at the time. People are still like that though.
True. Do we want to start by asking you, why do you not like this book? And maybe you can like clarify that, because I think saying you just don't like it is maybe too simplistic, but you got some beef.
Yeah. Okay. That's a fair point. So as an author, she's a very good writer. She's very eloquent. She's clear. Her story makes sense. Like all the things as an editor you look for in a writer, she's got it down. She's a very good writer. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with Shelley herself. I have no problem with the fact that she wrote this book, whatever.
At age 18, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's
so cool.
That's amazing. That's really cool. And like, I support her writing and I support her writing this book. I think it has a lot of really good messages in it. I just really, 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 really fucking hate Victor. And I hate how everyone around him is not only complacent with his irresponsible and just like shitty personality and demeanor, they support him and like him. And he's just so toxic that it just makes me really angry. And so reading this book makes me angry. So it's not that I like hate the book. I hate how the book makes me feel, I guess is a better way to put it.
So I knew that going in, and my initial thought was, you're too upset about a character that's not a good person. Not every character or main character has to be a good person, right? Yeah. But I thought it might have been, he's kind of a jerk. But this guy sucks.
Right.
I mean, just to like give the meta view of all of this, one of the things that's really interesting is it starts out with a captain on a ship going to the North Pole, and they see in the distance the wretch, right? Walton, yeah, they see the wretch. They don't know what it is, but just like a huge figure on a dog sled, like going down the ice. And then after that, they find a man. Is he injured, or am I taking that from the movie?
Yeah, he's injured. The whole point of the letters that Walton's sending is that this guy is wounded. They bring him into his like captain's quarters, and he just tells his story, and then Walton transcribes that and sends that to his sister. Yeah,
so it's cool because it has that frame of it's Walton writing to his sister, who is the only person in this book with any responsibility, and she doesn't even talk. You can just tell by Walton's letters to her that he's like, oh, you think that I shouldn't push so hard or whatever. Anyway,
she's the voice of reason, even though she's just that voice in his head. Like, when I give you a look because you know you're supposed to be doing something, right?
Right.
And you're like, oh, yeah, I guess I should do that thing because I know Amber will want me to do it. And before you continue, I just wanted to point out, in case people have not read this book, it is an epistolary book, which means it is in letter form. So the entire book is letters that are telling this story.
And it's Walton, the sea captain, writing down Victor's story. So it's interesting. This is like, I feel like this is pretty classic, like old-timey novels.
Yes,
but I like this a lot.
It's a style for sure that was popular at the time.
Yeah, and it's cool because Victor is telling the story to Walton, who is writing it down, and that's what we're reading. And then later on in the book, we get the creature's story, about the middle third of the book or something like that. So it's the creature's story to Victor, to Walton. So there's like the layers of storytelling and how it's being transmitted and stuff. It's kind of cool.
Can I interrupt you again?
Of course.
So this style, I think in part, at least with Gothic literature, was helpful because it adds a layer of believability. It worked for, again, I mentioned Walpole already, but he wrote The Castle of Otranto, and that is also in epistolary format. And in his introduction, as the author, he said, oh, I found these letters and I'm just publishing them, like as if he didn't even write it. Kind of like found footage, Blair Witch Project stuff. Like it was meant to heighten the believability of the story. It also helps with the othering sense that Gothic literature plays on a lot. So it's happening over there. It happened to someone else. So it can make the reader believe it a little bit more than like if it was happening in England next door, you're not going to believe it. But if it's far away in the mountains of Germany and it's somebody telling the story, well, you know, every time someone tells a story, it changes a little bit. So there's that aspect to it too.
Yeah. But it's just great because you get a little bit from Walton in the beginning as the captain. He's like very lonely, right? Because the captain can't really be peers with his crewmates. He's got to be their boss. Yeah.
Not unless you want a mutiny.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, I'm so lonely. And then he meets Victor and Victor tells him his story. And the captain's just like, wow, Victor, I can't believe all this stuff happened to you. What a friend.
Let's be best friends. You sound like such a nice guy.
And we get, just to like jump all the way ahead, he tells the story and it's horrible of like how he created the creature and everything that happened afterwards. And then like at the end of the book, Victor tells Walton, looking back on everything that's happened and all the people that have died, I don't feel bad. I don't think I did anything wrong. So
it wasn't me. It was the monster.
So one of the cool things I did like about the beginning of the book, I know we're kind of jumping around here, but I think you all are familiar enough with Frankenstein that we can do that here a little. But one of the cool things is that Victor is very self-educated. And one of the cool things that Mary Shelley did is that he wanted to learn as much as he could about the natural sciences and stuff, but he only had access to the books that were in his home. And the books he had were philosophers and scientists whose their ideas had pretty much become obsolete by the newer philosophers and scientists who had more information or whatever.
Like how they used to believe in humors.
Tumors?
Humors.
Oh, humors. That's right. Yeah.
It was like you had the 4 humors, right? Saliva, black mucus, yellow or green mucus, and blood. And if something was wrong with you, it was one of those things, which is part of why they would bleed people. Was they're like, oh, your humors are out of order. You have too much blood. Hence, we bleed you.
Yeah, so Victor, he was very driven and self-educated, but he was reading outdated material. And so by the time he goes to university, he goes to the professors and he has like this encyclopedic knowledge, but of encyclopedic knowledge of outdated knowledge. So they're all like, oh, Victor, let us help bring you up to speed. But I thought that was cool. I think that plays into him creating the creature because some of that older thinking was more like alchemy and
it's just like how they used to believe in the humors. It's outdated information
He had the science, and then he learned the updated information, but he was affected by that old information too, which I thought was an interesting piece of texture. But
it molded him. Is that what you're trying to say?
It molded him, yes. So
it made him moldy, more like.
He goes there, gets all the updated natural philosophy and sciences information and all that. And then he gets, this idea in his head to bring a dead creature back to life. And for those of you who don't know or don't remember, it's not like he didn't just take a corpse out of the ground and then resurrect that. It's like an arm from this corpse, a leg from that one. It's different pieces that essentially just looking for parts that are in good condition that can work together.
It's not Frankenweenie bringing his dog back to life.
But he's like obsessed. He's like, I'm going to do this. It's the most important thing in the world. I'm going to revolutionize everything. Really into it.
One track mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he gets his own little spot where he's able to work away from the university and just be isolated and make his creature come to life. And I just want to real quick read the passage of the creature coming to life, because I think due to the Universal movies, I was so used to like this hugely dramatic scene, and it pretty much happens within a paragraph. It does happen within a paragraph. And here's that paragraph. It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils.
Hey, that's today.
Hey, yeah.
It's November.
Not super dreary, though. It's been kind of nice. We went on a walk. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 a.m. The rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out when, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. So, like, that's it. It's basically like, I went to work, and then I woke up.
It twitched a little bit.
It's alive! It's alive! That's kind of what I was hoping for. And immediately, okay, so I don't know how long he's doing this thing, but he's like really obsessed with making this work. And then it works. And immediately, he's like, oh, gross.
This fucking guy, man.
He's disgusted with the creature at sight.
And what does he fucking do? He runs away. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
And then proceeds for the rest of the book, spoiler alert, to basically blame everyone but himself for this.
Yeah, so he runs away, and then the wretch, gets loose. And he like abandoned his family. I mean, maybe abandoned is too strong at this point. But he went to university. At this point, he's married. Maybe has a kid. I don't know if he ever had kids.
No, he's not married yet.
No. I thought he had family when he went to university, because I thought he left Elizabeth
he left
behind.
His dad and Elizabeth, but they were betrothed because the whole thing with like the marriage.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Another reason he's a complete asshole.
Yeah. So
should we just list all the ways?
Do you have a list? I guess you don't need one.
Not really.
All right, you want to go? Should I?
Okay, let's see.
Should I set like a timer? Should I do like a 60 seconds? See how?
Oh, okay. You got to give me my book then.
Are you just gonna flip there and read all your notes?
I might have to resort to that. But
I mean, we don't have to do this, but it sounds kind of fun.
Let's see how this goes.
Tell me when you're ready, and I'll do a 1 minute timer, and we'll see what.
Okay, and I'm specifically focusing on Victor, right?
Yeah, just all the ways he's just a terrible, awful person.
All right. This. I'm going to try to do this purely from memory. Okay. So he goes to university and basically wastes his dad's money because he's not going to class. He's doing this shit and he's like pretending everything's fine. He ignores his family and Elizabeth's like, please write to us. And he's just like, I'm too busy. He creates the wretch and then immediately is like, this is disgusting. I'm out of here, and just leaves it and goes home and is like, hey, how is everyone? Oh, nothing new with me. And then skip ahead. So this is going to be full of spoilers. The wretch talks to him and is like, hey, please make me a companion. And he's like, hell no. And he's like, yeah, but like you made me and you ditched me. And he's like, yeah, no, that's a you problem. And then it kills his son. And he's like, I don't understand why it would do that. And then it kills his wife. And it told him, I will visit you on your wedding night. And Victor's like, oh, well, I'll just hold a gun and make sure to protect myself. Because the fucking asshole, of course, only thought about himself, because why would it go after Elizabeth? No, it just would come after me. So it kills Elizabeth. And then his father dies, like in direct response to that. So his entire family is dead, and he still can't figure out that, like, maybe he's at fault a little bit. His friend is killed on their epic adventure up to England and Scotland and Ireland on accident, and he doesn't feel any remorse. He just keeps basically saying, fuck you. He's like, okay, fine, I'll make you a partner, and then proceeds to, like, forget about it for, like, 100 fucking pages, and is like, oh yeah, I guess I should do that, and still doesn't think about it, agrees to do it, and then is like, well, actually, no, I don't want to do it, and then like runs away instead of explaining himself why he wouldn't do it.
You're over a minute, but I'm just gonna...
Okay, good. Then I'm gonna stop.
Wait, I lost you on that last part. You do what? So what wasn't he doing at the end?
Oh, making the companion.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the monster's like, make me a companion or I'll make your life miserable. So Victor's response is, hey friend, let's go like on a 3-month sojourn to England and Scotland and Ireland, like have a good time. And he doesn't do anything. And occasionally he's like, what if the monster goes home to my family? And he's like, nah, it's probably fine.
Oh, and I didn't even mention Justine. He's like, I don't want to tell anyone because they might get mad at me. It's like, you could at least say, like, hey, there's some creepy dude. It could be this creepy dude. Like, he doesn't have to explain he made this thing. Like, he can, there are other ways. Yeah,
so Justine is a tragic character. This was like the family. She was technically a servant, but was like very close to the family and was esteemed and welcomed into their social circle and all that. So it wasn't quite like a straight servant, if that makes sense. What happens is when Victor's younger brother William is killed, and Victor's not there right now, but his younger brother is killed, and then the brother had a locket from his mom, and that locket is found in Justine's pocket of her dress or whatever. They probably didn't have pockets, but you guys still don't get pockets. But anyway, he like finds the mother's locket. So of course she killed William because she has the locket that he was wearing. We find out later in the book that this was actually the creature who did this after he went through like a horrible the midsection with the family, which we'll talk about. But yeah, so basically this character is killed, is executed, and is blamed for this crime. She says she's innocent the whole time, and throughout this, Victor is like, I felt bad for her, but it was worse for me than for her because she knew that she was innocent while I know what I have released on the world. But like, she's executed. So then he's still like, woe is me.
Such an asshole. And let's see. He says at one point, I am no coward to bend words. And I'm like, but you're fucking coward enough to run away from what you did and let everyone around you die. Like, yeah, you're a fucking coward. Just not with your words. Oh, you're such a big man. Oh,
I don't like this guy.
So it's
fun. He's very unsympathetic in this book.
I actually, when I finished reading this, I apparently had written a pretty long review of this on Goodreads. And I'm just going to read this one point. Now, I really disliked Dr. Frankenstein. Have you gathered that yet? What a selfish prick. Seriously. Oh, woe is me. This horrible monster is chasing me and ruining my life. Dude, you created him and just left him and then kept screwing with him. And talk about selfish. Oh, man. Why couldn't he explain himself to anyone? He literally couldn't tell anyone about the creature, not the teachers who basically taught him how to make the undead. He couldn't tell the authorities about a quote-unquote person. Doesn't have to give them every dang detail about the creature who killed William. Instead, he just lets Justine take the blame. Wow. Just wow. And then there's Elizabeth. Dang, this guy's got my blood boiling. Isn't that great? And I go on Goodreads and read it if you want, because it's a pretty long, but I hate this man.
So let's talk about the creature a little bit. So this, I don't know if I even knew this happened, that the creature in the book tells his story. But he does.
Yeah, he tells his story, but it's like, isn't it through Victor, through Walton?
Yeah, it's still Victor talking to Walton, but he's telling the story that the creature told him.
I'm sure he's not an unreliable narrator by any means.
And
actually, I feel like he's not. I feel like it comes across pretty genuine.
Yeah, he's like, I don't care. I didn't do anything wrong.
So I'll just tell it as it is.
So the creature, was just doing these just awful, awful things. So we find out what happened after he left the laboratory or whatever, right? So he's wandering around, does whatever, but ends up at a cottage, basically looking for a place to stay. He's kind of just been like wandering around out in the elements. And it's kind of cool. He mentions how, because he's made of corpse parts, he doesn't really feel cold and heat as much as a human does, but still is affected by it and still needs shelter. The shelter that he finds is like attached to a cabin. He doesn't realize that people are living in that cabin until later, but we find out that there is a dad with his young son and daughter living. They're brother
They're
and
adults.
sister. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. There's an old man.
They're young woman, but they are adults.
Yes. And they're living with an old blind man.
Mm-hmm.
And the creature notices this, like sees them through the slats in the wood or whatever, peeks through and watches them and listens to them. And this is how he ends up learning how to talk, because he hears them reading stories to each other and talking to each other and showing each other love.
Yeah. And the son marries a woman who is from somewhere in the Near East, which brings up Orientalism, which is another Gothic trait. But she doesn't speak English, or, I would think it would actually be German, but, she doesn't speak their language. So they're teaching her how to read and speak. So he's able to read this book over their shoulder through the crack in the wall and learn how to read.
But check out these horrible things he does. So he's like watching this family, and they love each other and they talk to each other very sweetly. And he's like, what is this love? Because he doesn't know love since Victor's such a prick. but he starts to catch on that the young man often goes to the woods to gather firewood, and like that they have chores. And so what he starts to do is he's like, I want to help these people out because they're so loving, and partly because he's learning from them, even though they don't know about him yet, but he's like, let me help out. So he'll like in the middle of the night goes into the woods, gets like a bunch of firewood, stacks it all up for them, and they're just like, oh, that's cool. I guess I would too if I came back and chores were done. I'd be a little freaked out, but anyway, they're not freaked out at all. They're just like, they find their food stores stocked, their wood is stocked, they're able to like do other things and enjoy themselves a little bit, and they're just like, oh, we have this secret helper, that's cool. So the creature just wants to help out, and then he starts thinking about, okay, after he's been there for a while, he's like, how can I introduce myself to them? And he ends up coming on the idea of talking to the old man who's blind, so he won't see, like a stitched together corpse coming at him. But he decides that he'll talk to the old man when he's alone, when the others have left the cabin, which he does. And he goes in there and talks to the old man. Everything's cool. But then Felix, the young adult, and the rest come back, and they're like, monster! And they're just like, chase him off. So basically, he just wanted some affection. He wants people not to scream at him, and he'll do their chores for them. He's not asking for much. It's just like, please don't scream and shoot and stab when you see me. That's all I want. And then I'll do what you want. So these are the horrible things the creature does.
Yeah, what a bastard. Then he also goes and murders people. But he's a little...
After,
once he's rejected. But there's actually a really beautiful quote where he talks about humanity after this experience he's had. They are kind. They are the most excellent creatures in the world. But unfortunately, they are prejudiced against me. And it's just so heartbreaking because he is... I think this shows he's genuinely a good being. I think that maybe this is Shelley's way of saying that humans are inherently good, if you consider the wretch a form of human. But it, to me, indicates that he is a good being and is treated so poorly that it turned him into a murdering monster, self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And meanwhile, Victor is just an asshole, and he breeds discontent and pain through his jerkery, his jerking around. And it's just interesting how much of a juxtaposition there is between Victor and the wretch. But it's also, if you view him as a monster, both of them, Victor, in a sense, is trying to play God, but he's also a parent, right? Like, he had a child that he made and failed at raising this kid, or in this sense, this wretch, this monster. And so in the end, it became a monster because the father failed him.
One of the interesting things I read about, just for a quick detour, that's related, but while Mary Shelley was writing Frankenstein, two things happened. Her half-sister and Percy Shelley's wife both committed suicide. So Fanny, who was her half-sister who committed suicide, was a bastard child, which is the terminology they used at that time. So born out of wedlock, right? And then Percy Shelley's wife who committed suicide was childless mother. And so, at least within the introduction, they make a interesting correlation there of like how much was Mary thinking of those things about, people, types of people. Like, if you were born out of wedlock, or if you're a mother and don't have children, like, society hates you. They just think you're a wretch, I guess, if you want to correlate it to the creature, right? Mm-hmm. And so they were almost destined to have that tragic ending because they're considered outcasts and morally depraved because they're not fitting the very rigid Victorian standards of culture.
Well, you even still see that today, right? I mean, a lot of adults our age, millennials, are not having children, and people are like, what is wrong with you? That's still a heated point of contention with some people. So yeah, and especially back then, I mean, women were property basically at that point.
They were. It was actually, a woman could not divorce her husband, and the men could legally beat their wives, and just had total domination over them.
I mean, a woman couldn't have a bank account in America until like 1975. So it's not much different in this country. But yeah, and then, this isn't a political podcast.
I think we say that every time.
But, I mean, look at today. They're trying to take away women's rights left and right.
Well, there's the whole like trad wife movement, right?
Movement.
I don't know.
Christ.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Who knows? But it's called that, and it is something that is visible. The whole idea of being happy to be a woman who stays at home and is subordinate to her husband and pumps kids out, and probably it's men making these content, or women who are selling things. Who knows? I'm sure
a lot of women in these positions are part of the problem, right? Like they're so deep into the mindset of the patriarchy that they're hurting themselves and claiming that the woman's job is to be at home with her kids and stuff.
Yeah. So to bring it back to the book, I think especially during the Victorian era, I mean, we're talking about things that we still deal with today, but it was just so pronounced in Victorian times. I feel like it was just like, you can't deviate at all. Where now it's like, you deviate and I don't like you for it, but you can kind of shrug and be like, whatever.
And the whole other side of this too is the lack of a woman's touch, right? The lack of the mother in this scenario, because Victor makes this monster and doesn't know how to mother it. He can't mother it. He doesn't have that ability to treat it in that warm, loving way that is generally associated with motherhood. So is that part of the problem that crops up because a man can't do a woman's job? Is she saying that? Is she pointing out that argument in society, or is that just But the whole concept of parenthood is you can definitely go down that rabbit hole for quite some time. So okay. I want to ask you a question, because I've talked a lot about my feelings about this book. Do you feel that the wretch is justified in its actions against Victor's family? He killed everyone. Yes, that's obviously not okay. But do you feel that in some sense there is some justification for how the wretch has responded?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, it is kind of a slippery slope, right? Because when you talk about murder, I mean, a lot of the times there's murder of passion, right? Like things that an otherwise sensible person goes into a rage and kills someone, right? And then if you hear their story, there's probably a lot of times where you're like, oh, I kind of see how you got to this point, right? And you don't want to say like, oh, it's okay because these bad things happen to you. But I mean, yeah, this creature was essentially born, and then its creator, the first thing it saw was Victor, and Victor's like, oh, gross. I hate you. And every time they meet, I'm surprised that the creature is even able to like get its story out to Victor. But I mean, at some point, the creature is 8 feet tall and very physically intimidating. So I think Victor's like, fine, I'll listen to your story. But Victor like vehemently hates it and lets it know is just, you're disgusting, and it just can't stand it. So to think of, I don't know, being somebody who's raised not just with like a negligent parent or a parent who could be mean sometimes, but your entire experience with the person who brought you into the world is horribly negative. That's got to completely ruin your psychology. And then the whole idea with the cabin, which was so heartbreaking because in his mind, of course, the cottagers don't know anything about him, but he's like, oh, they're so loving and I'm helping them out, and getting that feeling of maybe I can find, if not love, acceptance, maybe I can make something work. And then to have their immediate reactions be to attack him, right? Because he's terrifying. That's when his mind breaks, and that's when he starts murdering people, because he's like, okay, if I can't even ingratiate myself with these people who are loving and caring, what's the point? So I don't know about justified, but I completely understand it. It was totally failed by Victor and completely abandoned and abused. And so when somebody grows up in a situation where all of their confrontations with other people are negative, and with the understanding that he's not like them, it's
a Freudian slip. All his confrontations.
Interactions.
As opposed to interactions.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, all the interactions are negative, and they hate him and are disgusted by him, and he becomes aware that he's not like them. And so he's not just an other, but he's a hated other, right? And that's just like ripe ground for bad news. So whether justified, I don't know, but I empathize with him.
Yeah.
I understand how it came to that point, for sure.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, I feel, is genuinely a good person. I don't know.
Almost every time he sees Victor until the end, when he's just like fed up, he's like, hey, can you just chill? I just want... he wants like the companion, to have somebody who's like him that he can spend time with, since he's learned that humans want nothing to do with him. And he's constantly just like, hey, I'll help you out. I'll do your fucking laundry.
He also said we would just leave, right?
Yeah, like make me a companion, I'll leave. And Victor's like, well, no, what will happen is if I make him a companion, they'll have children, and then death will envelop the earth. So... damn it, Victor. Yeah, I get how it got to where the monster's killing a bunch of people. I'm much more empathetic and sympathetic toward the creature than I am for Victor. I don't feel much empathy for Victor.
So you don't agree with Walton when he says, must I then lose this admirable being? I have longed for a friend. I have sought one who would sympathize with and love me. Behold, on these desert seas, I have found such a one, but I fear I have gained him only to know his value and lose him. I would reconcile him to life, but he repulses the idea.
Yeah, this ship captain's like, whoa, what a cool story.
He's a fucking asshole, dude.
Like, what a great, brilliant scientist. And not like, you'd think you'd be like, hey, you just told me the story about how you made this thing, and then that thing killed the people close to you because you wouldn't say hello to it. Like, maybe you're the problem here. But no, the captain is totally enthralled.
Annoying. Okay, let's spend a little time talking about the Del Toro film.
Yes. Yeah, we just watched that last night. It's on Netflix now. It might still be in theaters, or it was in theaters for like 2 or 3 weeks.
I have a burning question.
Okay.
Why does Victor only drink milk in that movie.
Yeah, he
What?
loves milk.
What is
it
up
actually
with that?
kind of made me thirsty for some milk, which is not something I drink often anymore.
It was like, is this like a statement?
I think it was like a virility thing.
Oh, it was
is
like
my guess.
I miss my mommy.
I don't know. I almost feel like he's not drinking alcohol. He's just drinking, I don't know, the nutrients he needs to be a mad scientist. I don't know. It was weird. I kind of liked it, though. It was a weird character trait.
It was fine, and then it just kept happening, but it was never addressed, so I was a little confused.
Yeah, just needs fresh milk. Got to keep his bones healthy. So there's some weird changes in this, differences, I'll say, between this book
Frustrating,
and the movie.
some of them for me.
Yeah, so first of all, what's weird, maybe not first of all, but one of the weird things is that Elizabeth, who in the book basically like grew up with Victor and they were destined to marry, I think they're cousins.
Yes, they're cousins.
Yeah, they're cousins, that was a thing. Yeah, they were just like destined to be together. Then they were, and Victor sucked and was a terrible partner, but they were still together. In the movie, Elizabeth is betrothed to his younger brother, William, who in the movie is older than in the book when he's just like a young kid, I think. So
yes, he's an adult, and Victor sees her for the first time when William comes to visit. So completely different relationship there. Which, was it necessary?
It adds tension, I think, was just like a tension thing, I would guess. Elizabeth, played by Mia Goth, such a great actress. And of course, Oscar Isaac plays Victor.
Of course he does.
Of course he does. He just...
Everyone loves a little Poe in their life.
Yeah. But yeah, there's some weird stuff. I mean...
I have one major issue, and I've already mentioned this to you because I couldn't wait because it really frustrated me. So I really hate Victor, right? Like we've made that very abundantly clear. And I think for good reason. And I think that was the point that Shelley was trying to get across. I think she wants you to hate Victor. And in the movie... he has an abusive father. His mother dies, but his mother dies in the book as well. But he's like a neglected child, and his father beats him. And the film made him a sympathetic character. Also, he was at university in England, telling the scientists about his idea, not doing it in the dark. So he's much more sympathetic. It's more like this unfortunate thing happened to him. You feel bad for him. At one point, he's hitting the wretch with sticks, just like his father did. So you're like, oh, he's just emulating what he knows. And that really bothered me because he's not a sympathetic character. He's not supposed to be a sympathetic character. And by doing that, it takes away the power that the book gives to the relationship between Frankenstein and the wretch, because now you kind of feel bad for Victor.
Yeah, it's very different. In the book, he's very clear about like, I had a great upbringing and like we all loved each other. There's no like abusive father or anything. There's nothing within the book that's like, because this happened in my childhood, I'm now like this in terms of like abusive relationships. So with the effect that in the book, he's a jerk of his own will. This is him making these terrible decisions, which does have a completely different flavor to it.
And he stays, right? And he's like trying to teach the wretch language. He doesn't instantly leave. So it's like, what is the message? What is the message of this story?
What's fascinating about that difference is, so in the book, as we mentioned, the creature opens his eyes and Victor's like, oh, gross. But in the movie... I'm
just laughing because it's like, weren't you fucking looking at this thing all day, every day for who knows how long?
Yeah.
And you're like shocked, like, God, this guy's a fucking idiot.
What's fascinating about the movie, and I thought this was interesting, what makes Victor become disaffected with the creature isn't that it was made of corpses and all that stuff, but it's the fact that for a long time after the creature first comes to life, all he says is Victor, just over and over, Victor, Victor, Victor. And so this drives Victor crazy, not because he's disgusted with the creature, but because the creature doesn't have intelligence. As far as Victor can see, he's like, you can just say one word. You're like, I made you, and you're an idiot.
Yeah, he's not disgusted with the wretch itself. He's disgusted with the fact that it's not able to speak. He can't get it to do what he wants, and it does make him unsympathetic. It does work to the same effect a little bit, but it's definitely nowhere near as powerful.
Yeah, I mean, he sticks around for a while. Granted, he does like when they go to bed at night, he chains them down, basically. And it's just like, stay there. I'm going to keep you chained so you don't hurt yourself or hurt me. But yeah, is trying to communicate with it. So is definitely more sympathetic and becomes more and more frustrated, and then goes down the jerk path when he decides that the creature doesn't have the intelligence that he's hoping for. And I did like there's a moment where it talks about like how he spent all this energy to make this work, and then it worked, and then he's in a completely different life, right? Because he accomplished the thing he set out to accomplish, and now he's just a dad with like an idiot kid, and he's like, this is frustrating. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, again, the movie's trying to give you an explanation where it doesn't and it shouldn't. Because remember, the tool that he uses to do the lightning thing, like to collect the lightning, is bent, so it's not perfect. And he, I think, associates that as why the wretch is not intelligent, because the thing was bent a little, and so therefore the experiment wasn't perfect, and therefore it wasn't intelligent.
Yeah, he thinks he failed,
which is, it gave an out to Victor. He has a thing that he can point to and blame and say, oh, it's the thing was bent. And it's like, well, no, it's you. And that was my biggest problem with this movie, is like, no, you're the problem. Your dad being a jerk was not the problem. This weird love triangle thing is not the problem. Your love life's not the problem. The mechanics of your invention are not the problem. You are the problem.
Yeah.
And this movie gave him all these avenues as the viewer to blame something else.
So yeah, some of those changes are, I guess I can see why they're made for the movie and for modern audiences. I feel
why?
like I don't know.
Why do you have to make him a sympathetic character?
I just feel like it's kind of been in vogue for a while, maybe since Breaking Bad. I don't know, but the whole idea of you have to give antagonists a reason to empathize and understand where they come from.
Then make a different fucking movie. Don't change a perfectly well-balanced story.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And then they have this scene with Mia Goth, who plays Elizabeth, and she's awesome, but like this moment was like a little too sentimental. But she goes to visit Victor with William, and while Victor and William are off doing stuff, she goes and she like finds the wretch, and they have this little thing where like they share a leaf, or he like hands her a leaf, and so she's like, he is intelligent, he shared this leaf with me, and then she like holds on to this leaf,
and he says her name too, right?
Yeah, he says Elizabeth.
Nice rendition. That was spot on. Maybe you should be an actor.
And she almost, I don't know, she's not like falling in love with him, but it like almost seemed like there was sexual tension between her and the creature. And not quite, but almost.
Yeah.
But she was just like really into him. Like and part of that, what makes sense is part of it was Victor calls the creature an it and has it chained down because he's like, it could hurt me and hurt others. So I think her response is the emotional response of like, no, this thing, it said my name, it shared something with me, you can see intelligence in its eyes. So she becomes very sympathetic with it, but it seems like almost a little overboard, and it makes her feel like a little bit, I don't know, too sentimental. Or what do you think?
She does give Victor shit, like straight up. She's like, what the fuck are you doing? Which is great. I want to do that, but that's not the story.
Yeah.
I do want to say though, there was a beautiful moment early in the film where there's a shout out to Memento Mori, and it was just so well done. It was a Memento Mori scene, gorgeous. And then
Can you explain what that is for us?
So
peanuts.
Memento Mori, I think I explained this when we read...
It might have been Carmilla.
Yeah, so it's probably Carmilla. I think I gave a little spiel about Gothic literature. But at this time, this was after the Black Death, after the 30 Years' War, after famine, there's just death everywhere. Also, this was the beginning of the time period of exploration. So you have Christopher Columbus going to America and stuff. So memento mori literally means, well, translates to remember that you must die. And the idea behind that is life is short. Carpe diem, seize the day. They go hand in hand, those two phrases. And so you get these beautiful art pieces with skulls, and there's usually some kind of compass or tall ship or globe, because it's like life short. Let's explore. Let's do what we can. It's basically like 1920s Great Gatsby vibes. It's that same kind of like, woo, let's live life because we're going to die, but with actual stark imagery of death involved with it. So in this scene, it looks like a painting of a skull with flowers around it and fruit. And I didn't look at it close enough. I probably should have had us pause the video to see what else was in the scene, but it looked just like a memento mori painting. And I think I even said, oh, memento mori. And then
the character said
and then the character says it. Yeah. And he's just like, this is memento mori. So there's a woman who's posing for the picture, and she's holding up a peach, which is like vitality and youth and beauty. And again, memento mori, the limited amount of time before it rots. And he's like, turn it. And she had taken a bite. And he's like, damn it, like, stop ruining the picture. So it's funny. So it took a very serious and a very beautiful piece of history and worked it in my opinion, very well. I thought they did a very good job with that.
Yeah, that was cool. Overall, it's just like visually...
Yeah, it was beautiful.
A very beautiful movie. Like the costume design is incredible. The set design. I feel like this is wrong because there was definitely some CGI in there, like his dream with the angel. Okay, I should say CGI was used sparingly within the movie, which is really cool because there's a lot of stuff going on. But like a lot of the sets and a lot of the action going on are made from practical effects, which is cool.
So to me, the Wretch felt like a bit of a Tim Burton stop motion clay character, just because his skin's kind of blue and devoid of wrinkles and such. It just kind of had that claymation vibe to it. I don't know if you caught
totally
on,
did.
if that, it felt a little Sally-ish to me, which was, I thought, I'm sure non-intentional, but it felt like a nice little shout out to Tim Burton in that. And I loved the Wretch's eye. He had the one eye that would reflect, but it always reflected in like a red color.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like he had cataracts, but like in a demonic way. He also was the Snow White of rats.
Yeah, rats really liked it. Like there's scenes where he's like sitting up in the rafters and there's like a rat crawling up his leg while he's reading a book.
He just needed to whistle and they would have collected all the wood for him.
Also, he has like Wolverine healing in the movie, which is kind of weird. Yeah, he's like shot at and cut and he's like immediately heals. I know that the reason they did it is because the whole thing is part of his torture within the movie is like, I will be alive forever. Like I'm immortal and hated and all this stuff. He wants to die. Like if he could destroy himself, he would, but he's unable to. There's even a scene in the movie where he takes a stick of dynamite and is like fine and his clothes are fine. He's just like a little singed, which is kind of weird.
Well, also in the tower, where he builds the Wretch, he has somehow hundreds of canisters of gasoline. Just I don't know where the hell he got them from. He blows this place up. Now this thing fucking blows up. It is completely obliterated. And then the Wretch comes back and finds perfectly intact books and papers and shit. It's like, the fuck? How did that survive? In like mint condition. Like
it was singed on the edges.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, okay.
I think what I'll say, I was more upset with the end of the movie, something that happened. And it sounds like we're like ragging on this movie. I really liked it, and I recommend that you watch it because the actors are great. The setting, the scene, like it's a really good movie. But regardless of all that,
just don't read or don't watch it right after you read the book, which is always my advice.
Another thing, and this plays into the whole like making Victor sympathetic, and this makes Victor very sympathetic. But in the movie, the creature shows up on the ship with Walton and Victor, and right before Victor dies, they forgive each other. Victor's like, I'm sorry, I was mean. And then the creature like kisses him on the forehead and says, I forgive you. So this plays into the whole thing of really trying to sympathize or make Victor a character you can empathize and sympathize with.
It completely changes the message of the story. Like, what is the message of the film?
I mean, he still shouldn't have done that.
I know, but yeah,
it's a little redemption.
It's a redemption story.
And I think that's also a Del Toro thing. I mean, part of his...
Then pick another fucking book.
I know. But I'm just saying, I like Del Toro, so he just seems like such a nice guy. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's
great. But his thing is like giving humanity to everybody, even the villains.
He did an amazing job with Pinocchio in that.
Yeah.
But that's not this book.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to forgive Victor.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Because even at the very end of the book, he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. The creature's a terrible wretch, and I'm not going to accept any responsibility for what's happened. So yeah, in the movie, it's much more like, I forgive you, I'm sorry. There's a little bit of the redemption, and then he passes quietly away, and it's like not as harsh. So it's definitely like softened around the edges.
It's an entertaining movie. It's beautiful. Don't go into it assuming that it's going to be true to the book. But honestly, I mean, I think I can count on like maybe one hand how many films are actually good at staying loyal to the book. But this felt a little egregious to me. Yeah. Because I really fucking hate Victor. Like, I don't think there's anyone in literature that I hate more than Victor Frankenstein.
I can see that. I really thought going into it, I mentioned this before earlier, but like, I really thought it was be like a flawed character and the flaws were bugging you too much, but he's like only flaws. It's not, there's no mix.
Yeah. I mean, there were a couple of things within the story that bothered me. Like, how did the wretch find him in Ireland? That seems impossible. Does he have a homing beacon on him? But I let that stuff slide. That's not a big deal. Victor being an asshole is a big deal. And that's
the whole book.
That's the whole book. So I really like the Universal version, but I think that's because it's different and it's a different... I mean, honestly, though, it'll be interesting to go back and watch this film in the future and say, oh, like this is a play on where we are in our time. But I feel like in our time right now, politically and...
Victor is more accurate.
I think that we should be, I think we should be hard on people who are assholes. I don't think that now is the time to be really nice and understanding and redemption. No, like, you know, we've got billionaires running around with more money than there are fucking people in the world. And a president who wants to like either kill you or take your rights away, and we're making redemption
and we don't
stories.
Want to hear about their mean fathers. Like at this point,
no, yeah, put them in fucking jail. You know, whatever. Like
this is not a political podcast.
This is not a political podcast. Yeah. Okay. But so I've said my piece on.
So normally at this point, I would ask, so how did you like the book? But I think we know.
I'll answer that anyway. Okay. So I've read this so many times now, and honestly, every time I read it, I come at it from a different place in life, right? I think last time I read it was 2 years ago. I was in graduate school taking a course on English Gothic literature, talking to other English majors about it. So I'm in a very academic mind. Now I'm a mother. I was a mother at the time, but I was in an academic brain. Now I'm just mom brain. Before, when I read it, I was neither of those things. And so it definitely shifts how I view it. I still hate Victor. I will say, though, I think I enjoyed it a little bit more this time. And I wonder, too, if part of it is because I started reading it and I was just instantly frustrated. So I did the audiobook, and that... No, I actually sped it up and listened to it at 1.5 speed, which I don't normally do because I just wanted it over with.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, Mary Shelley. I got to read some of their stuff so I don't just sound like a Shelley hater. How did you like the book?
I mean, I think I liked it more than you. I know I liked it more than you. Partly because it was my first time reading it, so it was, a new experience. I don't know how I'd feel if I had to read this book 4 or 5 times. But I enjoyed it for a few reasons. I liked the whole, this is a story being told by someone who's getting the story related to them, and then adding the creature in, so it's like creature to Victor to Walton. I like that whole setup. I like the whole 19th century, the relentless adventurer, person who wanted to like map the world and discover and all this stuff, because there's still so much we didn't know. So the Victor does the intellectual version of that. I want to bring death back to life and conquer death. And so I like the whole idea of the conqueror who ends up falling from grace. And there are some really beautiful passages. I mean, overall, it's really well written, and it's crazy that she was only like 18 when she started this.
She really captures the sublime for sure.
Yeah, and occasionally there were just like beautiful passages. Not even more than occasionally. Definitely recommend it.
Prose is wonderful.
Yeah, good prose. I still kind of feel like I enjoyed reading it as like an artifact more than just enjoying it. I mean, I did enjoy it, but it was like, oh, this is Frankenstein, which is like everyone knows who that is, and so it was cool to
Do
like.
they though? Because I think they know who the wretch is.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. It was cool to read a famous book, and I enjoyed it. I totally see what you mean about Victor. Like, he is not at all sympathetic. He never feels any remorse, and when he does feel remorse, it's like remorse for himself. So, and it got a little irritating, and everyone around him is like, "Oh, Victor." Either they are babying him because they're like, "Oh, poor Victor," or they're egging him on, even though he's clearly a psychopath. So that felt a little weird. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. I recommend it. I think it's really cool, especially if you go into it like I did with the general idea of Frankenstein. Like, I still was thinking of the universal monster when I went in to read it, which is very different from that. And the whole idea with the creature actually telling its story is really cool. That classic Frankenstein image that most of us conjure up is so much different from the book. So
Boris
it was cool.
Karloff.
Yeah, Boris Karloff. So it was
Or the monsters.
yeah. So it was cool to read the source of that. And I really enjoyed reading about Mary Shelley and how it was created. And I didn't know about her mom being a famous feminist writer and the connections there. So this is one of those books where the book and the stuff around it are all really interesting, even if there are some frustrations with Victor being such a shitty person consistently throughout the novel and nobody checking him on it.
I just want to throw things at him.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was cool to read.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's done.
But yeah, it was good. It was fun. I'm glad I did it. I mean, considering I'm doing like a horror podcast and I'm part of a horror writers group, I should probably have read Frankenstein, right? And now I have. All right, tell me, what's the one or two or maybe three books that you've been reading lately?
I've read 6 books.
And one of them is Helter Skelter, which is like 700 pages and has been on my nightstand. I don't know.
It's not
big.
that long.
Maybe not
It was
700
not that
pages,
long.
but it's a big ass book.
I don't know. I read it in like 3 days.
Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm going to grab it.
So Dan just went and got the book off the shelf. I listened to it and I didn't think it was that long. It was
About 650 pages.
Yeah, and I did a thing that I never do. I listened to the abridged version.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was wondering, this is a big book.
I thought it was mostly footnotes.
Oh, it's like a big ass book.
I was like, man, this guy
okay.
really is efficient. Oh, that's such a bummer. I never, ever, ever read abridged. And it does not say it on the cover.
That's not good.
Well, I guess I'll talk about that one first. So I don't listen to true crime. I don't read true crime. I finished this last week and it's still kind of sitting with me. Oh, I'm so angry because now I feel like I have to read it again.
The opening is really good, which is all I've read, but it's like,
it's
real
intense.
crazy.
It's really, really intense. So even the abridged version, it...
In case you don't know, by the way, this is the true story of the Manson murders. And I think this was like true crime, I think before it was really a genre, at least as it is today.
It was written by the prosecutor in the case. This took place in like 1969, I think, where the murders and the trial happened between like 70 and 71 maybe. But there's 2 things about true crime. First, I'm not a big fan because of the fact that it happened to real people. There are families who are still grieving and dealing with this stuff in a lot of cases. Not all. I think with Helter Skelter, it's been a while that it might not be the case anymore in this particular instance. But in general, true crime, it's exploitative of these families and becomes like the paparazzi thing with movie stars. I don't like that either. It's just like, leave them the fuck alone. Like, we don't need to know what shirt they're wearing every day and like have a picture of them walking down the street. Like, just fucking let them live their lives, right? But we have this weird fascination with death and with people and with trying to explain the unexplainable. And yeah, it was really unsettling. It was well done. I enjoyed it, but it's like still kind of sitting with me like, ooh, it's just so creepy because it's real. But yeah, I read the fucking abridged version of Helter Skelter. That is so embarrassing. I usually am very on top of making sure that I read the unabridged versions when I do audiobooks, but I didn't look this time. So shit, that sucks. So on the complete opposite end of that, I read The Story of the Eye by Georges Bastille.
Oh, hey, that's a Mayfly thing, right?
Yes, yeah, it is the book that she's reading in Mayfly about.
Check out our Mayfly episode.
The egg story. It was incredibly erotic. It was French. I'll just say it was French. It had a cool ending though. It really complimented Mayfly, and I'm like, oh, okay, that explains a lot about her personality and the sexual aspects of the book. After reading The Story of the Eye, I'm like, oh, this fits in with her exploration of those themes within Mayfly, and she did a very good job with it. Another short one I read was Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. I had this on hold forever at the library. It was good. It was short. It was a story of a boy dealing with the grief of his father dying in a very brief way to describe that. I recommend it. It was good, but I'm trying not to go too long since I harped on Helter Skelter for a while. I also read John Dies at the End by Jason Pargin. I've been wanting to read this for a very long time. I didn't really like the book. It was okay. A weird Lovecraftian sci-fi thing. Again, I listened to it and I felt like half the time I didn't know what was going on. Also, the language in that is very dated. It was written in the early 2000s. And yeah, a lot of the slang terms are not appropriate these days.
I feel like the early 2000s was just kind of a dud with a lot of movies and books. Like, just like the way we talked was still like left over from the 90s.
It was and it was just, I don't know. It was a lot of anti-queer language. I'll just put it that way. If you grew up at that time, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But sure, if you like it, great. Not for me. I'm not going to read the rest. I love the titles, though. I think they're very clever. And then two that I really enjoyed. I read Jaws, finally, by Peter Benchley. I'm probably butchering that. Benchley, whatever. I loved that. It was really good. There were some story arc stuff that was a little bit like, what's the point of this? Again, romance. Why?
Why do these people keep falling in love? You think you would like Victor, who was like, oh, I created this thing and I hate it. You think you'd immediately be attracted to that.
Why are people actually like getting romantically involved? Like, what a waste of time. I'm definitely not a cold-hearted bitch. But the book itself was really good. It's funny because the whole time they referred to the shark as the fish. They just call it the fish, which I guess is technically true, but I don't know. It just it was just funny to me. Good. And the movie followed along pretty well. It tracked along. I knew what to expect. The ending changed just a little bit, but yeah, I enjoyed that. If you haven't read it and you like the film, I highly recommend the book. And then I think my favorite of the group, I read The Lamb by Lucy Rose. And this is another cannibalism book. And I knew that going in. I was thinking, oh, I love Tender as the Flesh so much. I want to read something kind of along the same lines. This is a little bit along the same lines, but so completely different. This is cannibalism normalized, but only within this family and not okay in society. And they like hush hush. But one of the family members is a young girl who, I forgot her age, but she's she takes the bus to school. But she grew up in a household where cannibalism was normal, but she knew it was not okay to talk about outside the house. Really good, really visually gross. Great ending. All around good stuff. I might put this on the tentative list for next season. It was
really?
fun.
I've
really
seen this at the
enjoyed
bookstore.
And I listened to it, so I'd like to read it. I really enjoyed that one. Highly recommend. So, and I'm going to have to reread Helter Skelter. Damn.
The whole thing. I was like, damn, you read 6 books, including a 600 plus page book? Even listening, that's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I have to admit,
It's still impressive that you get through that much.
I'm going to be more okay with listening to more books. So be prepared. I'm going to have to start going to different genres eventually. Okay. What about you? What's your thing for us?
I read a thing and it was really good. I read book 1 of Saga of the Swamp Thing. This is the 1980s Swamp Thing run by Alan Moore, who many people are familiar with, and I've talked about before when I read Providence. Swamp Thing, I'm really excited to be reading because this is the book he made his U.S. comic book debut in, and it has a cool backstory. So it had been a comic book, and then Wes Craven in 1982 made a film, and so the studio or DC or whoever was like, okay, if a film's coming out, we should do another comic book run. So they started it. They did like 19 issues, and it's generally first of all, I thought this was like cool to read along with Frankenstein, since they're both classic hulking monsters. So they did like 19 issues of Swamp Thing, and the general story being like it's the scientist who gets blown into a swamp and then becomes the Swamp Thing. Part of that storyline is that, like, how can I become human again? So then Alan Moore comes in, and this run apparently like completely upended the way that comics were written. He was just like, here's how you do it. But what he did that was really cool, he totally changed up the origin of Swamp Thing. And what he did is he's like, the Swamp Thing finds out, it's kind of like the Wretch in the movie actually, but he discovers that when Alec, who was his like former scientist self, got blown into the pond, it wasn't Alec that like became the Swamp Thing. What happened is that the plant life within the swamp, along with, like environmental pollution, the plant life consumed Alec, the scientist, and like absorbed all of its thoughts and memories, and then thought it was him, and so tried to form a body that somewhat resembled a human. So he is a plant. It's not that creature, but I'm like he's not actually, he can't turn back to the human. He's not the human. It's a plant who basically thinks he's that person.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's really cool. And the way they find it out is in the beginning, he's like hunted down and shot, and then some rich guy puts him in like cryo storage to study him and stuff. And he brings over this scientist who,
Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah. It's actually like I forgot his name. It's like another guy who turns into a plant sometimes. But what's cool is he like does the autopsy on Swamp Thing, and he finds parts that like look like lungs and look like a heart and look like liver, but they're not attached to anything. They're not doing anything, like they have no purpose. And so then he discovers through that he's like, oh, this is a plant that's just trying to assemble parts to be like a human. So it's like it made organs because that's what humans have, but they're not actually doing anything. And then so Swamp Thing breaks out, finds the notes about how he's not actually the scientist and he's just a plant, and it causes this existential crisis of like, who am I and what am I? And it's really cool. So the first book was the first 8 issues. I think there's 6 books in all, and I've got the second one. I'm going to pick up the library tomorrow, so I plan on going through that whole thing because I guess I've just been having an Alan Moore run. I mean, he's just such a good writer. And of course I would be remiss not to mention the illustrators, because I do have a good friend who works in the comic book industry, and he's like, okay, it's not just the writers, there's like the writers and the illustrators. But there's Stephen Bissette, if I'm saying that right, and John Totleben. But yeah, the illustrations are just incredible. They're like very 80s in style, but super creative. The panels are laid out in really awesome ways. Very good. pretty horrific. And it's cool that Alan Moore as a writer was able to come in and basically say, like, can I take all the stuff you did and like completely change it up? And they're like, yeah, you should do that. And then he revolutionized comic book writing. So yeah, really enjoying it. Just that's all I've gotten time in since our last episode, but I'm glad I picked it up, and I'll keep going through it till I'm done.
Nice. Well, you have been reading Frankenstein after all.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
That,
basically,
as they say, is that. So
that's not.
What are we reading next?
Up next, we have a book that I picked, North American Lake Monsters by Nathan Ballingrud. This is going to come out on November 25th. Short story collection. It was his debut short story collection. I'm excited for Amber to read this. I've read half the stories several times, but this will be my first time actually reading the entire collection. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be followed by Candy Cain Kills by Brian McAuley on December 9th. And then on December 23rd, Krampus, the Yule Lord by Gerald Brom. So we got some festive horror books coming up. Looking forward to that.
And actually, Krampus is coming to Portland. You can go take pictures and stuff with him, like Santa Claus.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So maybe we'll have to go with our book and take a picture.
And yeah, that's it. I guess we'll see you on November 25th for North American Lake Monsters. And so yeah, until then, follow us on Instagram on Dust to Dawn Podcast. Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Well, if you've made it this far, then we didn't scare you off. Thanks for listening to Dust to Dawn, reading horror and weird fiction.
Please rate our podcast, and if you like, follow us on Instagram at Dusk to Dawn Podcast, which is also our Gmail address. Tell us what you liked or didn't like about the show, and let us know if you have any book suggestions. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.